National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.
And on today's show, business succession planning with industry consultant Ken Davis.
And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I am your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, returning once again on by demand, I must say, please welcome industry consultant Ken Davis. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Ken. And of course, Ken is not only industry consultant extraordinaire. Ken is CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA. Wow, that's like alphabet soup. If you've seen our shows before, Ken and I did a huge show, and by the way, we're going to be re-releasing it because we're getting so much traffic on it. We did an end of the year charitable giving, and I hate to say it, Ken, I did not catch the value of charitable giving, but I guess we had so much response on this, we're going to push it back out on the net. We're going to have a ton of giveaways on the landing page. We'll advertise. We'll tell you all about it. Now, Ken, this week we're doing business succession planning, and this is a build your practice out type of a strategy. A lot of our planners should be into this, and we're not. And I don't get that because it's really part and parcel of life insurance sales, some on the annuity, on the retirement issue. We should be into this. However, and I must say, ladies and gentlemen, I did not come up with the title of this. This is Ken Davis, generally not very creative on the, but he does not call it succession planning, he calls it succession planning. He has an article coming out entitled Succession Planning, and you'll want to read it. We'll have it all over, we'll have it on Producer's Web, we'll have it out on Agent Navigator, we'll push it out to Insurance Forum. We'll have it all over the place so you can see it. And of course, it'll be on our front page, I'm sure, with a title like this. We got to put it on the front page. Well, Ken, I'm so sorry, but that was a little outside my 9 dots when I think of Ken Davis writing an article.
Well, you've been rubbing off on me, Steve. See the effect you have on people.
Why is it succession planning, though? I mean, why is it so like that?
Well, it's because if they don't do the planning, it sucks. I mean, and it really does. What baffles me is that our profession has not jumped on this in a major way, because there's wonderful opportunities, not only, as you said, life insurance and annuities. There's also life insurance for executive compensation and helping owners that have not been able to put enough money into 401ks, and we did that Section 79 program not too long ago, which is wonderful to fit in there. But probably a very forgotten area of this whole thing is disability. Disability income for the partners, disability buyout, disability overhead insurance. And I'm not a big disability salesperson, but in the business environment, this works really well. So you got life insurance, disability, annuities, investment, insurance coverage, and there's a whole lot that we can do for these owners. So it's a very rich area for our agents to get involved in, and it's a very important human interest kind of a situation.
Well, when we talk about human interest, I mean, we are always thinking it's all about the math. I think a lot of the financial advisors that we deal with, our producers, they're very good about making a plan and so forth. But it's the emotional impact of not doing this that carries the day. And we're going to try to push this all this week, as Ken and I will be talking about business succession planning, the emotional heartbreak of having no succession planning and the things that go on. People that have been pals for years. I mean, we have seen relationships destroyed because we went into this with good faith. Somebody gets sick, somebody gets disabled, as you suggested. Somebody dies, and now they're partners with somebody else's wife. And we've seen it time and again. People who are long-term friends are destroyed because we didn't come to value the business. There's so many things we're going to get into this week. But Ken, I'm really surprised. I mean, you really have picked up on this issue because usually you're the math guy. You're the law guy. Now you're bringing up this emotion, this feely, kind of touchy. That's not you.
Well, generally in the past it hasn't been, and when I've been on the shows, it's usually on things that have to do with technical stuff. One of the things I really like about life insurance is accumulation on a tax benefit basis, which that's all numbers driven, and it fits exactly where I live with my technical background. But the whole buy-sell, key man insurance, business partners type situation is really important, and I think it's perfect for our agents because agents are taught to deal with the emotional aspect. I mean, let's admit it, life insurance is an emotional sale. When you're talking about a spouse dying and leaving little children and putting for sale signs in front of the house. I mean, all this type of stuff. You know, and to be candid with you, I thought it was a bit manipulative when I first got in the industry. But then when I really saw what delivering checks does for people and how it changes lives for the good, I mean, it's a very important emotional aspect. And I think this is perfect for agents because businesses, it is a tragic event if a partner passes away, because the whole dynamic of the business just goes, it's terrible.
Well, when I think of partnerships, I think of the traditional two-person partnership. And I think of people similarly close to age, you know, but really now I'm seeing partnerships where there are people that are in their 60s with young people in their 40s, right? And you're trying to make all this match up, and now it's not just two people, I have multiple partners here, right? And we don't know, does it matter? Is it an S Corp, C Corp, an LLC? I mean, all this stuff matters.
Sure it does. And let's not forget, I think when we think of buy-sell, we think of the 2 or 3 person firm. Okay, traditionally that's what we think about. However, you could have 10, 20, 30, 40 doctors in a clinic, and you think, well, who cares? I mean, 1 out of 40 doctors passes away, it ain't no big deal. Well, yeah, it is. That spouse, husband or wife of the doctor that's died frequently has a family, has children, and they're sitting there saying, where's my money? And they're going, well, you don't get it. When the doctor was here, most of what he's getting is salary. And this isn't a factory, this isn't a manufacturer. You mean that income's going to stop? Yeah, and my husband didn't buy enough life insurance to provide for me? Yeah, that's right. Well, I own 1/40th of this business and it's worth $500,000, $1 million. I want to get paid.
Write me a check.
And I want to get paid now.
By the way, you bring up a point, because I want to just pay this. You know, Ken and I have been dealing in a brand new area. It shouldn't be brand new, but we've been talking about divorce proceedings and the money impact it has, and it's big. And can you imagine having a huge business where one of your partners goes through a divorce, right? And you're in a community property state on top of it, and the bulk of the wealth is inside the business.
Well, and it gets even more complex. There's rules for professionals. Professional corporations, attorneys, accountants, doctors, whatever. I mean, how can a spouse who's not trained in medicine be a partner in a medical firm? You know, how can an attorney have a non-legal type of person? And so there's certain rules, and quite frankly, I don't know all of them, and each state's going to be different, so it's all across the country. But the fact is, some of these states with their professional rules of ethical conduct won't allow a spouse to own shares in the corporation for much more than a limited amount of time. And I don't know whether it's 90 days, 6 months, a year, or whatever it is, but I do know that in some cases there's restrictions. So it gets really messy. And then to really compound the mess, the IRS, what are they going to do? Well, a lot of these people are really wealthy and they have large estates. So the IRS is going to want to value that business at the absolute maximum possible value for estate tax purposes, right? I mean, there may be a range of $500,000 to $1 million. IRS is going to say it's worth $1 million. Because there's a rationale behind that, and when we talk about buy-sell agreements and stuff, one of the really positive things it does is it establishes a value that generally will hold up to adjudication or review, and so it kind of takes that tool away from the IRS if you've done your planning up front. If you haven't, good luck.
Well, I'm looking at the taxation issues too, because we're not only talking about, hey, I have to split the company up, or I owe my partner's wife something, or you know, whatever. I also have taxable events happening here. I mean, and that's a whole nother issue, you know, and how it's going to be taxed. And if it isn't just the business tax because I have an ordinary income, because I just received stock or whatever, I still have the estate tax issue to deal with. So I'm going to have to go through a gauntlet, or actually, to be honest with you, it's more than a gauntlet. It's a meat grinder of taxation issues, different channels, federal, state, retirement, income, business succession problems, estate problem. It's so combined. And last week we had Lou on, Suntage from Lincoln Benefit on estate planning. I was really shocked because he now, I think, and maybe you do this too, Ken, because we've known each other for a long time, I think in modules. Oh, this is retirement module. This is an estate planning module. This is business succession module. Lou was all down on that. He broke down every barrier. He said, this is so homogenous. They're so integrated. Yeah. You can't just keep compartmentalizing these ideas.
Well, think about it. If you, when we talk about later, when we get into buy-sell agreements, if a partner's spouse is going to receive $1 million from the sale of her stock from the husband's estate, she's got $1 million in cash. So then the question is, how does that impact the other insurance planning? Or if she doesn't have that, they need more life insurance. So, you know, looking that's how those are intertwined. Is there two sources of money? Well, three sources. There's general assets, then there's individual life insurance on the partner, and then there's the buy-sell agreement life insurance, and that all gets added into the pot.
Well, I'm looking at not only all the things we just talked about. Now I keep having to add things to the plate here to set up our whole week. I kind of get the single, you know, you have two people, so you're only dealing with your partner, one person. When we get into multiple partners, where we have, like you said, physicians or attorney partnerships. I mean, those firms are, what, they have 20, they could have 20, 30 partners. And they have to build in the issue of death, disability, retirement, right? I mean, all those three are in there.
Well, that's really what succession planning in its traditional sense is. What do I do when I retire? How do I pass this? Who succeeds me? If I became disabled, how am I going to get paid, and who's going to succeed me? And if I pass away, and I think generally we think about the death part of it. Before we scare our viewers away, the fact of the matter is that while it can be very complex, some of the solutions simplify it greatly, at least from a tax perspective. The end results are really, really fabulous, and it makes a very strong argument for doing succession planning because from a tax perspective it works really, really well. So, and then there's more complex entity purchase buyouts that can be much more complicated. And then we're going to talk about while the one solution is simpler, as you get more and more partners, that introduces some complexity that we have to solve with a trust or a partnership.
It is hard if you've never actually delivered a death claim. I've done it, where you've delivered a death claim, and it's kind of paper. You know, you're doing succession planning, you really don't see it. It kind of goes on, but when you have a death occur or a disability that takes out one of the partners, until you went through that, you don't understand all the, consequences, emotional, feeling, financial, taxation, and then I haven't even got to the issue of, oh, my beneficiaries. I wanted my kids to get this, but I didn't say anything. I wanted my grandkids to be part of this. I didn't say anything. I didn't address any of this, and now I'm partners with somebody I really like. I like my partner's wife, but she can't contribute to the business. It's not her area of expertise, and now I have to saddle up, and now I'm paying salaries, dividends of stock. We're going to be all over it this week, and again, you need to really think about this because this could be a huge area to build out your practice. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. You can write us here at the show, thebiz@brokersalliance.com, or call us toll-free, 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. Ken and I will be right back right after this message from Brokers Alliance, a leading distributor of insurance products in the country.
Whether you're a professional planner pursuing a strategic partner or an insurance distributor seeking a national alliance, your business just went into overdrive. Now enter the largest resource of insurance products and services with unparalleled access to a worldwide audience of consumers through the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, who can take your company and launch it into the stratosphere of success. With countermeasures, the most comprehensive carrier intel in the industry, the MASH unit with field triage underwriting and the premium tolerance test, the life insurance financial evaluation, the most rigorous policy review, and Bravo high definition broadcasting with online social media. Your search just ended.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and on this show, interviewer extraordinaire. Before moving forward with any of the strategies and tactics we talk about all this week on business succession planning, make sure you talk to your CPA, your tax attorney, or if you're FINRA licensed, your broker-dealer compliance department. You can call us at any questions or quotes you want on life insurance, annuities, DI, long-term care, and including group pension plans just call us 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. It's not what I know, it's who I know. And that's why I have Ken Davis on our show, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA. And now we're talking about Ken's favorite subject, business succession planning, or as his article has entitled it, it's called business succession planning. Oh my gosh, Ken. We'll probably get some email on that. You know, Ken, I'm talking about when I always forget, in the buy-sell agreements, we got a couple of guys sitting in the back room that have nothing to do with the business, and they're called business creditors. And I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah.
I got to cover that off too. We're talking about everybody that's related to the partners. That's one issue. Then I might have employees that are tied to this. That's another issue. Now I might have people sitting in the wings after a death, right?
Yeah.
Creditors. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the main body for this segment.
Well, what's interesting is when one of the partners passes away, typically there's a division of labor, a division of technical expertise. Frequently you'll find in a two-partner situation, one guy who's really good with a gift of gab. He's a sales guy. He's out meeting and greeting.
Kind of like this show.
Kind of like you. All right. And then you have your technical guy, more of your operations or finance guy. Right?
Kind of like you.
Right. And they work together as a team. And you know, what happens, for instance, if that sales guy passes away?
This show is dead.
Well, that's true, and that's true about businesses, and so, you know, creditors are going to get real nervous.
Right.
And in fact, what's interesting is I actually, can you believe this? I actually put on a 7-hour continuing education course, CPE, for 2 attorneys, a CPA, and 2 private bankers. Now, I was surprised the private bankers were all over it because they're making loans. And when I started talking about buy-sell agreements and the use of life insurance, they got it. They're going, oh my gosh, I've got this great client, but what if Joe passes away and suddenly the business is in the toilet? It was a very successful business, and suddenly the guy that's left is treading water. He's dealing with the grief, the loss of his partner. He may be at odds with the ex-partner's spouse's boyfriend's attorney, is the joke in the industry, but it does happen. And they've got all these things to deal with, and then they're out looking for a new guy to replace him. And it takes typically a new person about a year to matriculate into a situation. I threw that word out there because I know you like big words. So matriculate was for you.
First one to email me with that, with the correct spelling and the definition of that word. We'll get a little bonus from Brokers Alliance.
So anyway,
yeah, but wait a minute.
It all takes time.
I'm still back at you did this with 7 hours. That sounds like a mind-numbing. I mean, all the fiduciaries. Remember, he just said there are attorneys, CPAs. Everybody in the little fraternity of fiduciaries is at this club meeting. That's one. I probably missed a lot of cool things, but I kind of feel like I'll just take the digest version.
Well,
yeah.
One of the interesting things about that is when I taught an 8-hour course at the CPA Society, is I got up there and I said, okay, before we start today, guys, we really have to set the record straight. Why in the world would you let an insurance sales guy talk to you for 8 hours and pay $250 to listen to it?
They paid us to do it. I know, I'm still shocked. They paid us to do it.
But anyway, think of it from back to your question. The creditors are sitting there and said, Joe's gone, right?
Right.
Joe was a big part of it, and suddenly, you know, they're looking at the financials and the quarterly reports, and things are down, and the banks are getting a little nervous and all that kind of stuff, and there wasn't any provision to take care of this thing, at least in a buy-sell situation. Let's say Susie's left. Joe dies, Susie's left. She's got all of the stock now. And maybe they were smart enough to put some key man insurance on Joe as well. Not just the buy-sell, but some additional cash for the company to survive and to bridge that gap while sales are down.
No, that's a big distinction you just made. It's I have the key person.
Right.
So I need money for that key person's loss. There's human inventory here.
That's right. There's 2 life policy sales there. One is enough to buy out the spouse of the deceased partner for the buy-sell. And then there's key man insurance, which people mix key man insurance and buy-sell up all the time.
Which they're not.
No, they're very different. Key man is really for the benefit to provide extra cash and bridge through difficult times the needs of the company so that it can survive. So that, you know, Susie can sit there and go, gosh, I've got an extra $500,000 or $1 million, and while sales are down, I don't have to worry. I can still pay my bills. I can still pay the payroll, and now I can pay a headhunter to go out and find a new partner or a new person, maybe I hire an employee this time, not a partner, to do the sales function. And I go out and find somebody who is in the grocery business and knows a lot of the different businesses.
You're just unpacking it even the more because you're making such a distinction between the buy-sell arrangement and the key person to help cash fund.
Right.
We had Marcy Pruitt on our show. She's a DI expert, the diva, by the way, of disability.
Right.
She was talking about not only that, but she had disability for overhead.
Yep,
Right, to
disability
pick that up.
overhead.
Disability for if that person actually, before
Becomes
they died,
disabled
maybe
and
disabled.
they need to fund a lump sum.
And people say, well, gosh, Steve, there's insurance for everything. Well, actually, there pretty much is. If you can cover a lot of these scenarios.
And here's one when I was preparing for the show I'd never thought of and really never read in the literature. But what about a disability waiver on existing life insurance? For the key man insurance, maybe the spouse, the family has life insurance. Put disability waivers in there because that's another form of revenue to pay for those premiums. Because if you've got regular disability income, disability overhead, disability buyout, but who's going to pay the premiums on the life insurance? And what are the odds when somebody becomes disabled that they may pass away sooner than later? You know, you've got cancer or something, you're going through chemo and whatever. Well, you're still alive and you might last 1, 2, 3, 4 years, but you're disabled. Quite frankly, it's a bigger problem to become disabled than to die. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the fact is if you're still around, you're getting, you know, all your medical stuff done. There's all kinds of emotion involved. The partners and everybody's waiting for you to come back. Are you going to survive? Are you going to be able to contribute again? The spouse and the family are worried. I mean, there's all this stuff going on. So if you throw in the mix, not just the overhead, not the buyout, but all in the income, but also a disability waiver to keep life insurance in force, because when money gets tight, it's like, oh, I can't afford this anymore. And I need to spend it on things for food and shelter and travel and medical costs and all that other kinds of stuff. Make sure the life policy survives because that's when it's going to be needed.
You know, I've seen a lot of partnerships and small, closely held businesses, and I always think about, you know, when they're family, there's hardly ever going to be a time certain. This thing's going to go on to the next generation. There's a lot of handoff. In some of them, they're more, I've noticed a lot of the tech stocks, small, we're going to try to milk this for 10 years. They put a 10-year term on and they call it a day.
Yeah, keep it simple.
So we kind of got to know how long are we going to play? How long do we want the entity to go forward without us?
Right.
Is it family? Who's involved? Are we going to hand this to the employees? So I think sometimes we have to think about time. Now, why did I bring that up? Because in your article,
Why did you bring it up?
I did. Well, thank you for asking. Ken, I'm reading your article. You know, you're talking about what are the odds of one of the two partners dying before 65. And we have a report table on this. So I'm looking at numbers that are just shocking. I mean, as we all approach the big 6-5, right? It says you have a 40% chance where one of those two guys could be gone.
20 to 40%, and it's really based on age. And it's the younger people, if they're in their 20s, there's a 40% chance somebody's going to die before 65. And you think, well, gosh, they're young people.
Right.
So that's a bit counterintuitive. But if you look, what's interesting when you look at mortality tables, I know, how can mortality tables be interesting? But if you look at them, right? If you look,
just remember who I'm talking about.
if you look at them, it's basically about 1% of the population per age per year dies. So if you're 20 and you're going to 65, you know, that's roughly 1% a year, 40 years.
Remarkably,
there's 40%.
There's a whole morbidity issue to this because, you know, let's say I'm in my whatever I am, I'm 60 whatever, and my young partner's 30-something, he's still driving a motorcycle. He's living in Arizona, so they don't ask him for a helmet law. He's climbing rocks. He's exposing himself to recreational activity that I'm not going to do, but he's doing.
Well, in fact, the matter is disability has a much, much higher chance or probability of being disabled for 90 days or more, 90 days or more before the age of 65. So I've seen historical statistics that say it's about 4 times more likely you'll become disabled. Now, here's another thing. You go to your attorney, the attorney pulls some pre-drafted buy-sell agreement off the shelf or off his computer these days, and they put it in place, and this guy's just your normal everyday garden variety attorney, and he's not doing really advanced stuff, and this is not his daily thing, so it's pretty much a canned type program, right? Well, buried in there is a clause for disability. Okay, now they might have gone thinking they're talking about death, right, which is what most people do, and they've forgotten about the disability. But the partner becomes disabled, and he goes to his attorney and pulls out the buy-sell agreement, and lo and behold, in there is this disability provision in there. He says, well, you've got it. You can go back and demand to get paid for your stock. You didn't buy your disability insurance. You don't have any other sources of revenue. Go back to your partner and say, I want to get bought out. Well, the partner's sitting there going, gosh, we've already borrowed against the business. I don't have the money to buy you out. And he said, I don't care. I need the money to live on. Pay me, Joe. And then that's when everything disintegrates.
Yeah, and remember, we're talking about a lot of these times people were friends all the way up to this point.
They had barbecues together, they went on trips together, the kids know each other.
Absolutely.
And it's all just ripped to pieces because there wasn't planning, and it's not that expensive. It's not that hard to do.
When you think about it, when you're putting aside about 5 to 6% to cover the kind of numbers, heartache, transfer issues, tax issues, sealing it off from creditors, I mean, it's totally worth doing. And we have to say, Ken and I, and I'm just saying this as producers ourselves, I think we've been derelict in business succession planning. We haven't really done what we could do, and I think it's a huge place to expand our practice. All this week, we're going to be talking about this, entities, buy, sell, cross purchase, you name it. You can watch this show and all our shows this week on HD 1080p, beautiful recording, right on our website, www.brokersalliance.com, and we're all over it on the social networks, Vimeo, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Call Brokers Alliance. Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.